You're crouched low in the humid jungle, the thick canopy overhead allowing only slivers of moonlight to cut through. The air is stifling, filled with the sounds of chirping insects and the occasional rustle of an unseen creature. It's the dead of night, and you've been tasked with a reconnaissance mission deep in the enemy territory. Your heart pounds in your chest, not just for the fear of the Viet Cong, but for the suffocating darkness surrounding you. You're part of a fire team of 5, and tonight you're supposed to be the eyes of the squad. Normally, you'd use your starlight scope or the green phosphorus night vision goggles. They let you see silhouettes, shapes, shadows in the dark. But this time, the supply officer handed you something different, something experimental. Your squad leader hands out the new gear. Red phosphorus night vision goggles, he says. None of you have seen or used these before. There's a joke passed around about the army always giving you broken equipment, but something about these feels off. You slide the goggles over your eyes, and immediately the world around you shifts. It's not the green hue that you're used to. Everything is cast in this dark, bloody red. The trees, the grass, your squad mates, they all look like something out of a nightmare. But this is war, and you've already seen your share of horrors. Your mission is simple. Make your way through the jungle, locate the enemy camp, and return before the first light. The jungle is thick, and moving quietly is near impossible, but you push forward. The weight of your gear, the endless sweat rolling down your back, and the constant itch of your fatigues are almost unbearable. But it's the oppressive silence that unnerves you the most. With every step, the world seems to warp. The trees twist and bend in ways that don't make sense, casting strange, jagged shadows that dance in your periphery. You remind yourself that it's just the goggles, just a trick of the light, but then the first shapes appear. At first, it looks like a person, a figure standing motionless among the trees. You freeze, heart racing, signaling the rest of the team to stop. The shape does not move. You flick your goggles off for a moment, wiping your brow and looking back with just your eyes. Nothing. No one is there. The jungle is empty. You swallow hard, trying to shake off the creeping dread that settled in your gut. You tell yourself it's just exhaustion, but as you flip the goggles back on, the shape is still there, standing, watching. Your buddy next to you whispers, "Do you see that?" His voice barely audible, a tremor hidden beneath his breath. You nod, not trusting your voice to speak. The figure is still there, but now it's closer. No sound, no movement. Just silent, creeping approach. As your team pushes forward, it becomes clear. There are more of them. Figures standing between the trees, shadowy, twisted forms that don't quite move right. Their limbs are too long, their faces too featureless. Every time you blink or look away, they shift positions, getting closer. One of your squad mates, Henderson, breaks the silence. "Sarge, we need to move. Now." There's a crack in his voice, the kind of fear that you rarely hear from a soldier who's seen combat. He's staring at something behind you, and you turn, your breath catching in your throat. There, standing just outside the glow of the moonlight, is something that makes your blood run cold. It's not human. It's taller, with long, skeletal limbs, and eyes that seem to glow like embers through the red-tinted vision. Its mouth is an open void, and you swear you can hear a faint, low growl like the wind, but more malicious. "Go!" your squad leader shouts, and just like that, your team is sprinting through the jungle, fear driving your legs faster than you thought possible. The night vision goggles bounce against your face as you run, distorting the already terrifying world around you. The shapes are everywhere now, darting between the trees, circling, closing in. You can hear your own jagged breathing, the pounding of your boots against the earth, and the occasional shout from one of your squad mates. But the shapes, they make no sound. They move silently, just out of reach, always watching, always waiting. Henderson stumbles, and when you glance back to help him, you see one of the things standing over him, its arms stretched down, impossibly long, fingers curling around him like a shadow come to life. You hear his scream, but when you look again, he's gone, just vanished. Panic surges through your team as you stumble through the jungle, but the shapes are everywhere. They're not just shadows anymore. You can feel them. The air growing colder, your skin crawling with an unnatural sensation, like something is brushing against you. But there's nothing there. You and your remaining squad mates finally collapse in a small clearing, panting and shaking. The shapes have stopped following, for now. You rip the goggles from your face and throw them to the dirt around you. The jungle is silent. No shadows, no twisted figures, no long-limbed monsters. Those things. What the hell were they? One of your teammates whispers, still clutching the rifle like a lifeline. Your squad leader doesn't answer. He's staring at the ground, his face pale. The red phosphorus goggles lie at his feet, cracked and broken. But you know. Those things are still out there, just beyond the trees, watching and waiting. The mission is aborted. By dawn, you and the rest of the survivors are back at base, but no one speaks of what happened that night. You hand in your goggles, and they're taken away without question. Just another piece of experimental gear, they say. But you know better. Those goggles didn't just show you the enemy. They showed you something else, something that wasn't supposed to be seen. And no matter how hard you try, you can't shake the feeling that those things, the demons, are still watching, waiting for the next time someone puts on a pair of those red phosphorus goggles. As you lie awake at night, unable to sleep, you wonder, what did we really see in the jungle? What is the trick of the mind? Or did we just glimpse something far more terrifying than any enemy we've ever faced? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, or if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. My name is Stone Rock, and today we're talking about the urban legend of the red phosphorus goggles. I say urban legend because I couldn't find any actual credible source for these things. If they were ever actually made, they were covered up really well. I mean, they were covered up by the government if they were covered up. So if they did exist, the government has wiped them from most everything. Everything I could find was mostly just Reddit stories, or there have been a few podcasts that have put these things out there and acted like they were a real thing. The thing is that these podcasts also said that green phosphorus hadn't been invented yet, and we had already had green phosphorus since right around World War II. So I can't use them as any sort of evidence, right? Can't use what they said as any sort of credible thing. So most everything I found on the red goggles was just Reddit posts and urban legends and stuff like that. So I doubt that it is anything real, but makes for a good story though. Night vision goggles that make you see demons? Like, come on. That sounds like it's ripped straight out of the Twin Paranormal playbook. But anyways, if you like what we do here, you can like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell icon. That way you're notified whenever we upload new content. I'm going back to try and do at least 4 a week. So any kind of interaction I get from you guys is welcomed. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Night vision technology has its roots in World War II, when both Germany and the United States sought ways to give their soldiers an advantage in low-light or night operations. The early prototypes were bulky, infrared-based systems that required active infrared light to illuminate the surroundings. These first-generation systems, while effective, made soldiers using them vulnerable, as the infrared beam could be detected by enemy forces. By the Vietnam War, technology had evolved into passive systems that used ambient light from the moon and stars. These devices, often called starlight scopes, used image intensification to enhance low levels of light, providing soldiers with a clear picture in the dark without the need for active infrared. The U.S. military developed several models of night vision equipment during this era, most notable being the AN/PVS-2 starlight scope. These systems projected a green hue, a color that the human eye is most sensitive to, allowing for better differentiation between shapes and shadows in the dark. The use cases of night vision technology during the Vietnam War, ambushes and recon missions in the jungle environments, increased survivability for infantry units during night patrols, and used by special forces and snipers to engage enemies without revealing their position. Modern night vision technology is most commonly associated with its iconic green glow. But why green? The answer lies in the biology of the human eye and why it perceives light. The human eye is most sensitive to green wavelengths, meaning that when looking through night vision devices, the brain can process green images more easily and with greater clarity. This leads to improved reaction time, better depth perception, and less eye strain during prolonged use. Green phosphor is also durable and efficient, meaning that it can sustain long periods of use without degrading the image quality. This combination of biological and practical advantages is why green became the standard. But what about red? That's where the legend of the red phosphor night vision goggles comes into play. The myth of the red phosphorus night vision goggles first gained traction through various military and urban legends, particularly linked to the stories from the Vietnam War. The core of the legend is that the experimental red-tinted goggles allowed soldiers to see beyond the physical world, into a realm of demonic or supernatural entities that would not otherwise be visible. Where did the legend come from? Well, some sources claim that soldiers on patrol were accidentally issued red phosphorus night vision goggles during a time when technology was still experimental. Anecdotes about soldiers who, while using these devices, reported seeing eerie figures, shadowy, distorted shapes that seemed to move in no way a human or animal could. The first whispers of these stories can be traced back to the veterans and post-war interviews over time. These stories became more embellished, especially in the age of the internet, where forums and online communities shared paranormal and military stories, wartime stories here on YouTube. If you want to hear like crazy stuff like this, wartime stories is a great place to pick that up at. Just a little addendum here off to the side. It's possible that these soldiers simply encountered a different type of experimental night vision technology that caused visual distortions or hallucinations. Under high-stress combat conditions, the brain can easily misinterpret the distorted images from early night vision goggles as something otherworldly. Another theory is that the red-tinted lenses interfered with depth perception, causing them to see shapes and figures that weren't there, or at least weren't what they seemed. While there's no solid documentation confirming the widespread use of red phosphorus night vision devices, it's not unreasonable to assume that the experimental models could have been tested. Red-tinted optics were tested in various fields, including aviation, but they were ultimately abandoned due to the strain they placed on the eyes and the difficulty in differentiating between objects and low-light conditions. The idea of red phosphorus night vision isn't entirely far-fetched though the reasons for its abandonment are clear. Red wavelengths require less energy to illuminate, which might have been appealing to early night vision developers. Red light is less likely to cause a person to lose their natural night vision after removing the goggles, potentially making it useful in situations where soldiers needed to switch between enhanced and natural vision quickly. A lot of the times in modern military stuff, or even in what I do, airsoft, we use red lamps on our helmets. We call them lamp lights. They're mounted to our helmets. We can aim them down at maps and stuff like that, and you can read it because it's going to be harder for the other team to see, or real military situations, it's going to be harder for the other armies, navies, whatever you're going up against. It's going to be harder for them to see. Insurgents. So I have practical experience with that, but it's red is harder to see from a distance at nighttime. Red light distorts contrast and makes it harder to distinguish objects, especially at a distance. In a jungle combat setting like Vietnam, where quick identification of enemy forces was vital, this would be a major problem. Red-tinted devices also reportedly cause severe eye strain after prolonged use, and the brain has a harder time processing shapes of red and low light compared to green. Green phosphor, as we mentioned earlier, is far superior in providing clear, detailed imagery in low-light environments, which is why it became the standard. We also have white phosphorus night vision now. White phosphorus looks cooler but I think green phosphorus is still probably the way to go. White is hard on the eyes as well. Ultimately, if red phosphorus night vision devices were ever tested, they would have been quickly discarded for their impracticality in combat environments. But that has not stopped the legend from living on. What makes the story of the red phosphorus nods so compelling is the eerie supernatural aspect tied to them. Soldiers seeing demons or ghosts through the goggles seems far-fetched, but it taps into something universal of a fear of the unknown, particularly in an environment as hostile and disorientating as the jungles of Vietnam. As time passed, the legend has taken on a life of its own. Online forums such as Reddit and various paranormal discussion boards continue to debate the legitimacy of these stories. Were the figures just tricks of the mind, or did the soldiers catch a glimpse of something that lies beyond human understanding? Modern paranormal enthusiasts have also become fascinated with the idea of red night vision, with some suggesting that these goggles allowed soldiers to see into an alternate dimension or to perceive entities that aren't normally visible to the human eye. In recent years, similar stories have emerged involving hunters, campers, and even ghost hunters using modern red-tinted optics and reporting strange sightings. While these are anecdotal, they keep the legend alive. So, I personally haven't seen any videos of any teams using red phosphorus night vision goggles. I will say, it is theorized that ghosts and other beings of the sort use IR frequencies or even full spectrum cams, which encompass UV, IR, and what we can see to capture stuff. Now, can I prove that people have caught stuff with this? No, not really. All I can do is point you in the direction of an episode of Ghost Hunters International. They're at one of the, it's like an Australian castle. Maybe not a castle. Maybe it's like an old barracks or something like that. But Barry, the equipment manager at the time, it's early on. Barry, the equipment manager at the time, has a full spectrum camera out. He's taking photos from up on top of a hill looking down at a wall. Takes photos. He catches somebody walking across the lawn. But in the other side-by-side photos, there's nobody there. All I can really do is just point you to that and say, go look at that, make up your own opinion. I don't really have an opinion on it either way because I didn't see it with my own eyes. But, you know, I'm just here to tell a story. I'm doing my part to keep the legend alive by telling the story. Also, how long until we get modern ghost hunters with red phosphorus night vision goggles claiming that they're legitimate evidence gathering devices? How long until that happens? That's what I want to see. We know they use thermals. How long till we get red phosphorus night vision goggles that are all steampunky looking? That's what I want to see out of these YouTube ghost hunters. That would be funny as hell. Anyways, so what's the truth behind the legend of the red phosphorus night vision goggles? Were they an experimental military tool that showed soldiers something they weren't meant to see? Or are they simply the stuff of military myth, fueled by fear, exhaustion, and the unrelenting stress of combat? While we may never know for sure, the stories of these mysterious goggles continue to captivate the imagination. Whether they were a brief experiment in night vision technology or something more supernatural, the legend of the red phosphorus night vision devices, remains a haunting reminder of the shadows that linger just beyond the edges of our sight. So, what did you guys think? What is your opinion on red night vision goggles? Like I said, there is no tangible proof of these things ever actually existing. If they did exist, they were just in a test phase and the government took and buried them super quick. We do know that the government is certainly capable of doing something like that. I mean, they buried millions of pounds of cheese. If you don't know what I'm talking about there, Wendigoon has a whole ass video up about it. It's an interesting watch. That's where all the government cheese comes from, by the way. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here. If you like what we do here, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below what you think of the red phosphorus night vision goggles. I'm going to get out of here. I got some other videos to make. You guys have a good day. And if you want to support what we do here, there's a merch shelf down below. You can go check out the merch. You don't have to buy anything, but we think that the designs are pretty awesome. We, just me and my subs, my wonderful members. If you want to join members, you can certainly do that. Members get their own videos. A lot of times they get debunks an hour or a day ahead of time, or just early in general. So it's pretty cool. Never mind the combat shirt. I put it on just for this. I've got my plate carrier in the back as well. I thought about wearing a plate carrier, but I was like, no, I don't want to be that extra. Obviously, I'm already wearing a hat with my name on it, right? I didn't want my shirt to look too military, so I slapped umbrella patches on it. Like, I've got umbrella here, and then I've got my umbrella security services here, along with my team designator GK1 for airsoft. If you want to see me play airsoft, I have those videos on another channel. You can go check it out if you want. It's machine_airsoft. It is linked in the description, I believe. But anyways, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys have a good day. Peace. Cover the land.